Good morning to all the students. Welcome to Food Chemistry Lecturer. So under Unit 1 we have started with the concept of protein, and in the last class we have studied about the detailed structure of protein. So let us recall some of the points which we have studied in first lecture. So in first lecture we have studied that proteins are basically one of the macronutrients which are made up of amino acids, and the type of amino acid will decide the function, and the number of amino acid will decide the size of the protein. And also we have studied peptide is the bond which joins two amino acid and form a polypeptide chain which is called as protein. And protein structures can be primary structure, nothing but a simple rope like structure, secondary structure, that means if two amino acids between interact, then they may form a helical structure or a pleated structure, nothing but alpha helix and beta pleated beta sheets. And if any sulfur containing amino acids are there, then they will entangle together and all the water hating amino acids will clump together forming a tertiary structure. And different types of proteins or polypeptides combine together forming a quaternary structure. So these are the things we have studied in the previous class. So in today's lecture we'll be studying about the protein classification. So classification of proteins can be based on three concepts. So proteins are classified based on the structure as fibrous proteins, globular proteins and intermediate proteins. So they are also classified based on the composition, nothing but what they are made up of. So it can be simple proteins or conjugated proteins. So based on the functions, they can be structural proteins, enzymes, hormones, pigments, transport proteins, contractile proteins, storage proteins and toxins. So let us study about each classification in detail. So first one is classification based on the structure. So as I said, the based on the structure, they can be fibrous proteins, globular proteins and intermediate proteins. Now what are these fibrous proteins? So fibrous proteins, they are linear in shape. Secondary structure is the most important functional structure of fibrous proteins. Usually these proteins do not have tertiary structures. Physically, fibrous proteins are very tough and strong. They are insoluble in the water, and the long parallel polypeptide chains cross-link together at a regular intervals. So fibrous proteins form long fibers or sheets. Functions of fibrous proteins include performing the structural functions of the cells. So example of fibrous proteins includes collagen, myosin, silk and keratin. So basically fibrous proteins are linear, that means they are like a long fiber in shape, and usually fibrous proteins will be having secondary structure, that means either they will be having the alpha helical structure or the beta pleated structures, and they do not have any tertiary structure. Okay, so either they will be in the form of primary structure or they will be in the form of secondary structures. And these fibrous proteins, as you can see in the name itself, fibrous means very tough and strong, and they are insoluble in water. And these fibers function is they provide structural functions in the cells. So they will provide structure to wherever they are present, and also they are responsible for the function of that particular protein. So example includes your collagen, myosin, keratin. So collagen and myosin, you know that in the previous lecture we have studied, they are nothing but the different types of proteins which are present in muscles. Okay, the sarcoplasmic protein and the connective proteins. Okay, and keratin is the protein which is present in your nail and hairs. Okay, so next type is globular protein. So globular proteins are spherical or globular in shape. They are usually round in shape. The polypeptide chain is tightly folded into spherical shapes. So tertiary structure is the most important functional structure in globular proteins. Physically, they are soft than fibrous proteins. They are readily soluble in water, and most of the proteins in cell belong to the category of globular proteins. Function: they form enzymes, antibodies, and some hormones. Example includes insulin, hemoglobin, DNA polymerase, and RNA polymerase. So globular protein, as name indicates, they are in the form of globe or the spherical shape, and as spherical shape is mainly obtained, you know that whenever there is a folding of proteins, and whenever the hydrophobic groups come together, nothing but shape is because of the tertiary structure, and they are readily soluble unlike your fibrous proteins, and they are soft comparative to fibrous proteins. And most of the protein which is present in our body belongs to the globular protein category, and the main function is they can act as enzymes, they can act as antibodies, and some of the hormones like insulin. Then other example includes hemoglobin, DNA polymerase. It's an enzyme, so which is responsible for breaking down the polymer structure of DNA, and RNA polymerase is also an enzyme which is responsible for breaking down the RNA polymer. So next type is intermediate proteins. So their structure is intermediate to linear and globular structure. They are short and more or less linear shaped proteins. Unlike fibrous proteins, they are soluble in water. Function is blood clotting protein. Example is fibrinogen. So intermediate, as name indicates, they are between the linear and the globular proteins, and their shape is a bit shorter than that of the fibrous linear proteins. Okay, and unlike fibrous proteins are insoluble, whereas these intermediate proteins are soluble in nature. And these example of intermediate protein is blood clotting protein, nothing but fibrinogen, which is present in uh, the hemoglobin. Okay, so that is about the classification of protein based on the structure. Now based on the composition, it can be a simple protein and it can be a conjugated protein. So under conjugated protein, it can be phosphoprotein, glycoprotein, nucleoprotein, chromoprotein, lipoprotein, flavoprotein, and metalloprotein. So let us see in detail. So simple proteins are composed of only amino acids. Proteins may be fibrous or globular. So they possess a relatively simple structure organization. Example: collagen, myosin, insulin, keratin. Okay. So simple protein, as name indicates, they are made up of only amino acids, and they are usually the linear ones and the globular ones. That means they will be either the fibrous shaped proteins or the globe shaped proteins, and they have simple arrangement of amino acids. And all your fibrous and globular proteins are example for simple proteins, that is insulin, keratin, myosin, collagen. Then all enzymes are example for simple proteins. Okay, not enzymes. Apart from enzymes, all other fibrous and globular proteins are example for simple proteins. Coming to conjugated proteins. So conjugated proteins are the complex proteins. They contain one or more non-amino acid components. So they are having complex structure, not a simple structure. And even in their structures also, apart from amino acids, they'll be having some other extra groups. So here the protein part is tightly or loosely bound to one or more non-protein parts. Okay, so here the protein part will be bound to non-protein protein parts. Protein part means amino group, carboxylic group, hydrogen group. they are bound to and one more part which is not a protein category. Okay, the non-protein part of this is called as the prosthetic group. So non-protein part in the conjugated protein is called a prosthetic group. So this group can be a metal ion, carbohydrate, lipid, phosphoric acid, nucleic acid and fad. So fad means flavin adenine dinucleotide, which is a cofactor. Okay, so the prosthetic group is essential for the biological functions of these proteins. Conjugated proteins are usually globular in shape and are soluble in water. So because of the prosthetic group itself, the conjugated protein will obtain its function, and these conjugated proteins will be globular in shape, spherical in shape, and they are soluble. So most of the enzymes are conjugated proteins. Okay, so except enzymes, all other fibrous and globular proteins are comes under simple proteins, but all the enzymes, most of the enzymes are considered as a conjugated protein. Now based on the nature of prosthetic group, that is the non-protein group which is attached, the conjugated protein are further classified as phosphoprotein. So phosphoprotein means here prosthetic group is phosphoric acid. Example is casein in milk and vitelline of egg yolk. So phosphoprotein means it is a conjugated protein where the prosthetic group is phosphoric acid. Example for phosphoprotein is casein and vitelline. Next, glycoproteins. Here prosthetic group is carbohydrates. Example, most of the membrane proteins and mucin, that is component of saliva. So most of the membrane proteins are example for glycoproteins. Membrane proteins nothing but the proteins which are present in the cell membranes. So these membrane proteins are attached to the cell membrane, and they are helpful in the transportation between the atmosphere and the cell. Then next type of conjugated protein is nucleoprotein, where the prosthetic group is nucleic acid. Example is protein present in chromosomes and structural protein of ribosomes. Next is chromoprotein. Here prosthetic group is a pigment or a chrome. Example is hemoglobin, phytochrome, cytochrome, etc. Next conjugated protein is lipoprotein. Here prosthetic group is lipids. Example again membrane protein. So you have most glycoprotein also. So glycoproteins are nothing but the membrane proteins which are integral membrane proteins, whereas the lipoprotein example membrane proteins are the one which are attached to the lipid layers. Okay, next conjugated protein is flavoprotein. So here the prosthetic group is fat, that is flavin adenine dinucleotide. So example is the proteins of electron transport system. Okay, so there will be a electron transportation system between the neurons, and this protein is a type of conjugated protein. Okay, then the last one is metalloprotein. So here prosthetic group is a metal ion. Example nitrate reductase, which is an enzyme. That is, classification based on structure is over, classification based on the composition is over. Next is classification based on the function. So based on the function, they can be categorized under 8 different categories. So structural protein, enzymes, hormones, respiratory proteins, transport proteins, contract proteins, storage proteins and toxins. So let us see in detail. So structural protein nothing but they are the form components of connective tissue, bones, tendons, cartilage, skin, feathers, nails, hairs and horn. So most of them are fibrous proteins and insoluble in water. Example collagen, keratin and elastin. So structural protein, as name indicates, their function is to provide structure to the part where they are present, and most of the fibrous proteins are example for structural proteins. and you know that fibrous proteins are insoluble, and hence the structural proteins are also insoluble in water. Example, the collagen, keratin, elastin, etc. Enzymes, they are biological catalyst. So enzyme reduce the activation energy of reactant and speed up the metabolic reactions in the cells. So most of them are globular conjugated protein. Example, DNA polymerase, nitrogenase, lipase. So enzymes, the function of these protein is to speed up the reactions of the cell, metabolic reactions of the cells, and these are globular in structure. Example includes DNA polymerase, nitrogenase, and lipase. Next is hormones. They include the proteinaceous hormones in the cells. Example, insulin, glucagon, and ACH, adenocorticoid hormone. Okay, so here the function of protein is they act as a hormone, that is the part which secretes the compounds. So next is respiratory pigment. So they are colored protein and all of them are conjugated protein, and they contain the pigment as their prosthetic group. Okay, so they are example for chromoproteins and their work is to help in respiration. Example, respiration are the transportation of oxygen. So example includes hemoglobin and myoglobin. Next is transport proteins. So they transport materials in the cells and they form channels in the plasma membrane. They also form one of the components of blood and lymph in animals. So example is serum albumin. So transport protein, as the name indicates, they helps in the transportation of nutrients in the blood and lymph. Example is serum albumin. Next is contractile proteins. So they force generator of muscles. They can contract with the expense of energy from ATP molecules. So contractile proteins are the one which helps in the contraction of muscles by spending the ATP molecule as an energy source. So example includes actin and myosin, which is present in the muscles and helps in folding of the muscles, folding and stretching. Next is storage proteins. So they act as the store of metal ions and amino acids in the cell. So they are mainly found in seeds and egg and milk and abundantly seen in pulses. Example, the ferritin with stored iron, casein, ovalbumin, gluten of wheat. So storage proteins are the one which will store the nutrients, proteins that store nutrients. And you know that in legumes, in embryo part, the nutrients will be stored, sorry, endosperm part, the nutrients will be stored, and the proteins which are present in the endosperm are responsible for storage of nutrients, and usually they are metalloproteins. So example, ferritin, so ferrous, which is nothing but the iron. Next are toxins. So they are toxin proteins which is not good for the human body, so they act against the nutrients. Okay, so example includes the snake venom. So this is about the classification of proteins based on the structure, composition, and the functions of proteins. Okay, now next is the nature of food proteins, that is nature of plant proteins as well as the nature of animal proteins. So you know that about 20% of the human body is made up of protein, and because your body doesn't store protein, it is important to get enough from your diet each day. So you get protein from many food sources including plants and animals. So some people claim that the source of protein, whether animal or plant, shouldn't matter, and the others suggest that plant protein is superior to animal protein. So in the future slides, upcoming slides, we will see what are the qualities of plant protein and the animal protein. So here are some of the plant-based proteins and animal based proteins which we will consume in our daily life. So among the plant based proteins you can see chickpea, oats, tofu, cashews, peanut butter, almonds, avocado, broccoli, then edamame are few of the examples which are very rich in proteins. And under animal proteins you can see egg, turkey means chicken breast, then pork chop, ribeye, duck, Greek yogurt, then semi skimmed milk, cheese. So these are some of the examples of animal protein, and even how much amount of protein will be provided per 100 gram of serving also mentioned. So let us see about the animal protein first. So meat is an important source of protein from animal source. So meat is the edible muscle of the cattle, sheep and swine, and these are designated as white meat because the color of the beef, lamb and pork is light or dark red due to the presence of the respiratory pigment called as myoglobin. So muscle from adult mammalian source stripped of all external fat contains around 18 to 20% protein on a wet basis, and they are categorized on the basis of their origin and solubility as myofibrillar, sarcoplasmic and connective tissue proteins, which range from 49, 55, 30, 34 and 10 to 17% respectively of the total amount of proteins. Okay, so among the animal meat you know that it can be white meat and red meat, and red meat is having all the essential amino acids and thus the important complete proteins, and these protein can be myofibrillar, sarcoplasmic and connective tissue. And you have already studied that myofibrillar proteins are the biologically available proteins, that is around 18 to 20% of proteins are obtained from the wet red meat. The next best source of animal protein is the milk. Milk is the excellent source of protein and it contains around 3.5% protein. And milk proteins are generally divided into two classes, that is casein protein and whey protein. So casein, which is insoluble in water, is a heterogeneous group of phosphoproteins and accounts for 80% of total protein. Whey protein, which make up other than 20%, are the soluble protein. So milk protein can be casein protein and whey protein. Around 80% casein proteins are there insoluble in water, 20% whey proteins are there which is soluble in water. Next source of protein in animal is egg. Egg contain around 13 to 40% proteins, and about two-thirds of which is present in egg white and the rest in the egg yolk. So egg white is the major source of the protein. So egg white consists of a number of proteins which is readily denatured and coagulated, and yolk is a mixture of lipoprotein and phosphoprotein. So egg protein consists of albumin, which can be easily denatured. So you can see when you put tawa on tawa, the broken egg, the transparent white part will turn into transparent egg white will turn into the white part, and yolk majorly is a source of lipoprotein and phosphoprotein. Next, the best source of animal protein is the fish, which consists of around 40 to 60%, and the protein content of fish varies from 10 to 21%. So fish muscle is similar to mammalian skeletal muscle with respect to structure and function, but unlike the latter is easily damaged. The pigmented reddish brown muscle of fish contains enzyme which following harvest cause changes responsible for much of the instability of the fish protein. So around 10 to 20% of fish protein is obtained from different varieties of fish. So that are the four major sources of animal protein: the meat, the milk, egg and the fish. Coming to the plant proteins, vegetable proteins. So fresh vegetables are not good source of proteins. Many contain less than 1% proteins. So potatoes and green peas contains about 2% and fresh peas about 6.5% of proteins. Proteins from potato are considered to be good quality because they are relatively high in the level of lysine and tryptophan. So potato consists of protein which is very rich in amino acids lysine and tryptophan, which are the essential amino acids. Next, cereal grains. So apart from potato, you have peas, which are good source of protein. Then cereals contain protein of around 6 to 20%, and the protein content of rice is around 7 to 9%, while that of wheat is 12 to 15%. So proteins are found in various morphological tissues of the grains like embryo, germ, bran or seed coat, and the endosperm. So the germ protein are mainly globulins and albumins, and several enzymes are present in them. Bran is poorly digested by man, and bran proteins are difficult to separate. Bran is mostly used as a animal feed, so the endosperm protein act as the structural component and also a food reserve for the growing seedlings. The endosperm proteins of wheat are mostly prolamines, gliadins and glutenins. So rice contains high level of glutenins and raw prolamines. Cereal proteins are generally of relatively poor nutritional quality. So even though cereals are the rich sources of proteins, so they don't have the important essential amino acids in them. Okay, and even the distribution of proteins inside the seed also varies. So the seed coat and the bran consist of more proteins which cannot be consumed by human beings. So the bran and the sippe part. Okay, and inside the endosperm you can find some amount of proteins, and even the embryo also contains proteins which is obtained from the stored part of the endosperm. Now the seeds contain protein in excess of 15%, and pulses contains on an average more than 20% proteins. Proteins of seeds are usually concentrated in aleuron grains, which is the subcellular granule of the cotyledon cells. Now seed protein function as structural element of the cell wall and the various membranes, and also as food reserves. The proteins of most seeds are globular owing to a decrease in the availability of meat proteins. Seed proteins are gaining importance. Newer techniques have been developed to produce textured or shaped proteins from seeds. Nutritionally, seed proteins contains less of lysine and also deficient in methionine and threonine. So seed protein contains some anti-nutritional factor that should be subjected to proper heat treatment to destroy the inactive anti-nutritional factors and maximize nutritional quality. So like cereals, even pulses are considered as the rich man's protein, poor man's protein, because the people who cannot go for meat, which is a rich source of protein, can easily consume cereals and pulses which provide equal protein like that of a meat. But the problem is the meat quality which is protein quality which is present in these cereals and legumes are not of very good quality. That means they lack all essential amino acid. So by looking at these two discussions about the plant protein and animal protein, we can conclude these points. So we can say that animal foods are the highest quality protein source. Plant sources lack one or more amino acids, which makes it more difficult to get all the amino acids that your body needs. So even though both animals and plants have good quality or the good quantity of the proteins, the quality of the protein is different. So animals have the best quality of proteins, whereas the plant, that is cereals and pulses, will have the protein but the quality is not good. That means these proteins do not have all the essential amino acid required for human body. That means some of the key proteins are, key plant proteins are often low in methionine, tryptophan, lysine and isoleucine. So next point, animal protein sources are higher in certain nutrients such as vitamin B12, vitamin D, the omega fatty acids, DHA, heme, iron and zinc. Okay, so compared to your plant, animal proteins have, apart from the proteins, they also have some other nutrients in plenty. For example, vitamin B, vitamin D, then omega fatty acids. Usually in fish and red meat these quantities will be more, the heme, iron and the zinc. So of course there are also plenty of nutrients found in plants that are lacking in animal food. So therefore it is very important that you should have a balanced amount of both plant and animal protein in your diet. The next concept is a diet high in plant protein is linked to a lower risk of heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. So, this may be explained by an overall healthier lifestyle in vegetarians. So, the health benefits of vegetarian diets are likely due to the overall healthier diets and lifestyles rather than any inherent difference between plants and animal proteins. So, the people who consume vegetarian food will be having a good health, good body figure, that is structural maintenance will be there, a good heart system will be there, and they'll be having control over their blood glucose. And even certain animal protein sources are also linked to reduced risk of heart disease, improved cholesterol level, weight loss and increased muscle mass. Okay, so even the animal proteins are responsible for good heart health, and even it is responsible for maintaining the best metabolic rate and body weight. So for a optimal health, the evidence supports a diet that is low in processed meat, rich in plant protein, with some animal sources such as meat, fish, poultry, egg, and dairy. So, as plant protein food sources are having lower quality proteins, vegetarians and vegans should eat a wide range of food to ensure they are getting all the essential amino acid that they need. And for meat eaters, it is important to get the right balance of both animal and plant food. So we can say that the one who are vegetarians has to consume all type of plants and seeds, cereals, pulses, because each cereal and pulse will be lacking one or the other amino acid. So you need to take all the plant proteins. And even for the non-vegetarians also, along with the animal proteins, it is also important to consume few of the plant proteins, because the quality of the protein in two are different. Okay, so I can conclude today's lecture by summarizing the points which we have studied today. So we can summarize it, that is based on the structure we have classified them as fibrous, globular and intermediate. So based on their composition we have classified protein as the simple protein and conjugated protein. Based on the functions we have classified them as enzymes, structural protein, hormones, toxins, then reserved proteins and all. Then we have studied the difference between plant based protein and animal based protein. So animal based protein will be having better protein quality because they have most of the essential amino acid, whereas plant based protein will not be having a very good protein quality because most of them will be lacking the important essential amino acids like methionine and tryptophan. So it is very important that we have to include both plant based protein and animal based protein in our diet. So that is for today's class. Thank you for listening patiently. Thank you.